Recorders. Peppa and her friends are at playgroup. Morning, children, says Madame Gazelle. Today we are going to play the recorder. Ooh, gasp the children, listening as Madame Gazelle plays a tune. Madame Gazelle hands a recorder to each of the children. Now, does anyone know how to play music on the recorder? She asks. You blow it like this, cries Peppa. That is not music, Peppa, says Madame Gazelle. That is a horrible noise. To make music, we must play in a way that sounds not horrible, suggests Danny Dog. Yes, Danny, says Madame Gazelle. Madame Gazelle tries to teach the children how to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star on the recorder. Cover these little holes with your fingertips and blow, she says. The children play on the recorders. It's time for the children's parents to pick them up from playgroup. Remember, the most important thing when learning to play a musical instrument, says Madame Gazelle, is lots and lots of practice. Goodbye, Madame Gazelle, everyone calls. Sounds like someone is learning to play the recorder, says Daddy Pig. It's me, cries Peppa. Madame Gazelle said I have to practice lots. Oh, says Mummy Pig. Daddy Pig will help you while I do some work in another room. Susie Sheep is practicing the recorder at her house too. La la la, sings Mummy Sheep. Yes, that's it, Susie. Keep going. Danny is also practicing. Very good, Danny, says Captain Dog. How about we go out on my boat now? No, replies Danny. I have to keep trying until I get it right. Of course, says Captain Dog. Peppa and her friends have been practicing the recorders all week, and now it's time to do a concert for the parents. Welcome to our concert, parents, says Madame Gazelle. Ready, children? The children play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star together on their recorders. It is a very noisy concert. At the end of the concert, the parents give the children a big round of applause. Haven't the children worked hard? Says Madame Gazelle. Yes, replies Daddy Pig, and now it's over. It's strange to think it was only for a week of our lives. I want you to learn this next tune, says Madame Gazelle. She plays Mary Had a Little Lamb on her recorder. The children try to copy her. Remember, go home and practice, 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 says Madame Gazelle. Peppa loves the recorder. Everyone loves the recorder. Peppa Pig, Sleepy Princess. It's bedtime. What Peppa and George need is a special story to help them fall asleep. It is bedtime, but Peppa is not sleepy.
Can you tell us a story, Daddy?
Of course, says Daddy. As long as you promise to go to sleep straight after.
We promise,
cries Peppa. Once upon a time, in a castle, begins Daddy Pig, there lived a little princess called the Sleepy Princess.
Was the Sleepy Princess pretty?
asked Peppa. Yes, replies Daddy Pig. She loved looking at herself in the mirror all day long.
Who else was living in the castle?
asked Peppa. Well, says Daddy Pig. The others in the castle were the small prince, Queen Mummy, and King Daddy, says Mummy Pig.
Wow!
That's right, says Daddy Pig. And there was a dragon at the castle, continues Daddy Pig.
Dinosaur,
asked George. Oh yes, it wasn't a dragon, it was a dinosaur, says Daddy Pig. A huge, fierce dinosaur. Roar! cries George. Oh dear, says Mummy Pig. Maybe the dinosaur wasn't quite that fierce, Daddy Pig. Sorry, George, says Daddy Pig. No, the dinosaur was very gentle. He ate lots of grass.
Daddy,
says Peppa.
Why was she called the Sleepy Princess?
I'm coming to that, said Daddy Pig. You see, it was night time. The stars and moon were out, and everyone got very, very sleepy. And the most sleepy of all was the Sleepy Princess. Daddy Pig turned Peppa and George's light out. King Daddy carried the Sleepy Princess to bed in the castle tower, and she fell straight to sleep. Thank you for that story, King Daddy, whispers Mummy Pig. You're welcome, Queen Mummy, whispers Daddy Pig. It seems our little prince and princess enjoyed it too, said Mummy Pig. Peppa and George are fast asleep. The end. Peppa Pig and the Vegetable Garden. Peppa Pig and her little brother George are playing at Grandpa Pig and Granny Pig's house. They love to help Grandpa Pig in the garden.
What are you doing, Grandpa Pig?
asked Peppa.
I'm planting seeds. What happens to the seeds?
They grow into plants. I make a small hole in the ground, put the seed inside and cover it with earth. Then I water it. Everything in my garden grows from seeds like this.
Wow!
Ouch! says Grandpa Pig. An apple fell on his head. Peppa and George laugh. Grandpa laughs too. Look, he says, inside the apple are more seeds.
To grow more apple trees,
says Peppa.
I want to plant a seed,
Peppa says. She makes a little hole and puts the seed in it. Then she covers the seed with earth. Grandpa lets her water it. Now we wait for it to grow, he says. Peppa waits. George waits. They wait and wait and wait.
It's not doing anything,
says Peppa. Grandpa Pig laughs. You have to be patient. Ah! What's this? Says Peppa. It's a monster. Monster, says George. Grandpa Pig laughs. It's just a little snail. Arr, says George. Monster. He likes a snail. Let's play snails, says Peppa. Grandpa Pig finds some baskets for Peppa and George, and they play snails in the garden. Look, says Peppa, a butterfly. Why do butterflies love flowers? They drink from flowers, says Grandpa Pig. Wow. They drink the flower's nectar. It's their food. Look at me, I'm playing butterfly, Peppa shouts. George wants to be a butterfly too. No, George, I am a butterfly. You can play worm. George doesn't want to play worm. Come on, George, says Grandpa Pig. Playing worm is fun. Grandpa Pig shows George how to lie on the ground and wiggle. Soon Peppa wants to play worm too. Grandpa plants some more seeds. He drops them on the ground. But when he turns around, a little bird is eating them. Shoo, shoo, says Grandpa. Granny Pig comes to see. We need a scarecrow, she says. Grandpa Pig brings Peppa and George to his garden shed. We'll find lots of things in here to make a scarecrow with, he says. He finds sticks, string, some straw, and an old sack. They build the scarecrow, then dress it in some old clothes. Peppa and George paint a face. The birds see the scarecrow. They stop eating Grandpa's seeds. The birds look sad, says Peppa. They must be hungry. Granny Pig brings out a bird feeder. Lunchtime, birds, she calls. Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig have come. Granny Pig needs blackberries to make a pie for lunch. Everybody wants to help. This blackberry bush has been here since I was a little girl, says Mummy Pig. Mummy Pig climbs a ladder to get to the berries at the top. Oh no! Mummy Pig falls into the bush. Where is she? Mummy Pig is okay, but she looks like a berry bush. Peppa and George pick berries from the mummy bush. Grandpa Pig, Peppa and George finish picking vegetables for lunch. Hooray! They make a salad. Granny Pig cuts up a cucumber. I love cucumbers, says Peppa. Yuck, says George. He doesn't like salad. Grandpa has an idea. He gives George a new plate. Dinosaur, says George. He eats the salad. He likes it. He loves Granny Pig's blackberry pie too. Yum! The end. Peppa Pig, Tooth Fairy. Peppa and George are eating their favourite food, spaghetti. Suddenly, something falls onto Peppa's plate. What's that? Peppa cries. It's your tooth, Daddy Pig laughs. If you put your tooth under the pillow tonight, the Tooth Fairy will pay you a visit. She will take the tooth and leave you a shiny coin, says Mummy Pig. Good night, Peppa. Good night, George, says Mummy Pig. Good night, my little piggies, grunts Daddy Pig. Peppa puts her tooth under the pillow for the tooth fairy.
Let's stay awake all night and see the tooth fairy,
says Peppa. Giggles George.
George, where's the tooth fairy?
Peppa asks.
She's very late.
But George is so tired he has fallen fast asleep.
I'm not going to sleep.
Snores Peppa. When everything is quiet, something appears at the window. The tooth fairy has arrived, but Peppa is fast asleep. The tooth fairy pushes a shiny coin under the pillow and takes Peppa's tiny tooth. Peppa, George, wake up, it's morning, says Mummy Pig brightly. Did the tooth fairy come? Daddy Pig asks.
No,
says Peppa sadly. Let's look under your pillow, says Daddy Pig. Look, Peppa, the tooth fairy has been, and she's left you a shiny coin.
Hooray!
Peppa laughs.
Next time I will stay awake and I will see the tooth fairy.
The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa's Fairy Tale. Once upon a time, Peppa and George were looking at storybooks together.
This one has 3 bears, porridge, and a hungry wolf looking for an old lady to eat,
said Peppa. George looked worried.
Don't worry, George,
added Peppa.
There's always a happy ending,
sighed Peppa.
I wish we lived in a fairy story.
Peppa, George, called Mummy Pig. It's time to go to Granny and Grandpa Pig's house for lunch. We're going to walk there through the woods.
But we want to go on a magical fairy tale adventure, said Peppa.
Maybe if we look hard enough, we might see some magical things on the way, said Daddy Pig.
This doesn't feel like a magical fairy tale place,
said Peppa as they walked through the woods. It feels a bit magical to me, said Daddy Pig, looking at the trees around them.
Yes, agreed Mummy Pig. This is like the patch in the Little Red Riding Hood.
I wouldn't be surprised if we bumped into the big bad wolf, said Daddy Pig. Just then, Daddy Pig bumped straight into Mr. Wolf. Oh, hello, Mr. Wolf, said Daddy Pig. How are you? Very well, replied Mr. Wolf. I'm just a bit hungry.
I'm going to my granny's house for lunch,
said Peppa. Are you really? asked Mr. Wolf. Well, I'll catch you later then. Bye.
That was just like Little Red Riding Hood,
gasped Peppa.
Meeting Mr. Wolf in the woods.
I'm not sure which way to go now, mumbled Daddy Pig.
There's a little cottage over there,
said Peppa.
Maybe someone inside will know the way.
Peppa and her family walked through a rose garden and up to the cottage. Hello, called Daddy Pig, knocking on the door. As Daddy Pig knocked, the door opened all by itself. Is there anybody home? asked Mummy Pig, wondering who would live in a cottage in the middle of the woods. Inside the cottage there were 3 chairs and 3 bowls of porridge. That porridge looks delicious, said Daddy Pig. I wonder whose it is. Hello, Peppa, cried Belinda Bear, spotting her friend.
Hello, Belinda, said Peppa.
Oh, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Bear, said Mummy Pig. Sorry to trouble you, but the door just opened, so we came inside.
That's quite all right, said Mrs. Bear. It's lovely to see you all. Are you going to stay for lunch, Peppa?
asked Belinda.
We're just having porridge, and it's not too hot, not too cold.
But just right, finished Peppa. Belinda and Peppa laughed together. We're actually on our way to have lunch at Granny and Grandpa Pig's house, said Mammy Pig. But we got a bit lost. Could you point us in the right direction, please? Mr. Bear pointed the way, and Peppa and her family set off again.
Wow,
said Peppa.
that was just like Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
With a little cottage and 3 chairs, said Daddy Pig. And 3 bowls of delicious porridge. I may have had just a little spoonful.
Daddy!
Peppa giggled.
It's like we're in a fairy tale.
Peppa, George, Mammy and Daddy Pig followed the path through the woods to the bottom of a hill. I think we need more porridge to get up this hill, puffed Daddy Pig.
Don't worry, Daddy,
said Peppa.
we're going to have lunch soon.
When they arrived at the house on the top of the hill, Peppa knocked on the door.
Granny, we're here.
Everyone was very surprised when the door was opened by Mr. Wolf. Oh, they all gasped. Oh, hello, said Mr. Wolf.
Mr. Wolf, said Peppa, why are you here?
I'm just round for something to eat, replied Mr. Wolf. Granny Pig has made a lovely lunch. Granny Pig poked her head around the door.
Hello, everyone,
she said.
Oh, hello, Granny,
said Peppa, a little relieved.
We're very hungry after all our walking. Don't worry, Peppa,
said Granny Pig.
Lunch is ready now.
When Peppa stepped inside, she saw Wendy Wolf was there too.
Hello, Peppa,
said Wendy.
What have you been doing today? Hello, Wendy,
replied Peppa.
We've been having a magical adventure in the fairy tale woods. Ooh,
gasped Wendy. Everyone sat down to eat Granny Pig's delicious lunch.
Why was it a magical adventure?
asked Wendy.
It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears and Little Red Riding Hood,
said Peppa.
Wow,
gasped Wendy.
I love fairy stories.
Everyone loved fairy stories. Yum, yum, said Mr. Wolf, tucking in. Everyone loved Granny Pig's lunch, especially hungry Mr. Wolf. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa's Frosty Fairy Tale. Once upon a time, it was a cold and quiet winter's day. Peppa and George were playing indoors and making lots of noise. Peppa, George, called Mammy Pig, why don't you look in your box of books and pick a nice story to read? Peppa and George searched through the box and pulled out their favourite books. They giggled with excitement as they looked through the pages. Then Peppa danced all over the living room, pretending she was in a fairy tale. Snowman! Cheered George, holding his favourite book. Peppa and George loved stories. That evening, Granny and Grandpa Pig came over to stay the night. Hello, Granny and Grandpa, said Peppa and George. Hello, little one, said Granny Pig, giving them both a big hug. It's time for bed now, said Mummy Pig. Please can Granny and Grandpa tell us a bedtime story? asked Peppa. Of course, Peppa, said Granny Pig. We'd love to. Once Peppa and George were tucked up in bed, Grandpa Pig showed them a beautiful snow globe. Then he began to tell a story. Once upon a time, he said, there was a cold and magical place called Frosty Kingdom. How do you get to Frosty Kingdom? Asked Peppa. First, you have to travel over the snowy hills, said Grandpa Pig. Then you journey through a deep, dark forest. Finally, you must climb a huge mountain until you reach the winter castle at the very top. I bet the Sugar Plum Fairy lives there and a Snow Queen, said Peppa. Snowman, said George. Peppa and George loved Grandpa Pig's story. I wish we could go to Frosty Kingdom too, said Peppa, as she and George drifted off to sleep. In the morning, Peppa and George woke up to the sound of jingling bells. They peered through the window to find out where the noise was coming from. It's snowing, gasped Peppa, and Granny and Grandpa are outside with a big sleigh and 3 reindeers. Just then, Mummy and Daddy Pig came into the bedroom. Granny and Grandpa are taking us all on an adventure, said Mummy Pig. We're going to Frosty Kingdom. Frosty Kingdom was in Grandpa's story, said Peppa. We'll be needing these, said Mummy Pig, handing out winter coats and woolly jumpers. We're travelling by sleigh. Hooray! Cheered Peppa and George, jumping up and down. Everyone climbed into the sleigh, and they set off. Which way is Frosty Kingdom? Asked Daddy Pig. Grandpa Pig pointed far into the distance. First you have to travel over the snowy hills, he began. Then you journey through a deep dark forest, said Peppa. Finally, you must climb a huge mountain until you reach the winter castle at the very top. That's right, Peppa, said Grandpa Pig. After they went over the snowy hills and through the deep dark forest, they started to climb the huge mountain. Are we nearly there yet? Asked Peppa. Suddenly George saw something move. Snowman! He squealed. Everyone turned to see a snowman waving at them. Hello, said Peppa. We are on our way to Frosty Kingdom. Peppa and George waved goodbye, and the reindeers pulled the sleigh further up the mountain. Up the mountain they climbed, up and up and up, until the sleigh reached a clearing and the reindeer stopped. Are we nearly there now? Asked Peppa. I can't see the magical winter castle. I think we may be lost, said Grandpa Pig. I'm sure it was this way. Oh no, Peppa sighed. What are we going to do? If only there were someone here to help, said Grandpa Pig. Hello, Peppa and George, a voice said. Look, it's Miss Rabbit, said Peppa. Actually, Peppa, I'm the Sugar Plum Fairy, said Miss Rabbit. You're on the right path. Frosty Kingdom is further up the mountain. This is so magical, cried Peppa. The sleigh climbed higher and higher once more and was nearly at the top of the mountain when, Welcome to Mr. Fox's official Frosty Kingdom shop, said Mr. Fox. Everyone hopped off the sleigh to take a quick look around. Daddy Pig loaded up a basket with sponges, telephones and wool. I'm sure these will come in handy at Frosty Kingdom, he said. Everyone piled back onto the sleigh and they set off yet again. Finally they arrived at Frosty Kingdom. We're here, announced Grandpa Pig. Peppa saw something sparkling up ahead. As they got nearer, she gasped.
It's the Winter Castle, and there's the Snow Queen. Look, it's Miss... Hello, everyone, interrupted Miss Rabbit. I'm the Snow Queen. Welcome to Frosty Kingdom. Peppa and George waved and giggled excitedly. I wish we could stay here, said Peppa. Peppa, this is our cabin, said Grandpa Pig. We're going to stay here for the night. Wow! cried Peppa. This is the best Frosty fairy tale adventure ever. Thank you, Granny and Grandpa. Ho, ho, ho. You are most welcome, said Grandpa Pig, smiling. Peppa and George raced inside the cabin and looked around excitedly. It's like we're in your story, cried Peppa. Maybe we are, said Grandpa Pig, laughing. Peppa loved Frosty fairy tales. Everyone loved Frosty fairy tales. The end. Grandpa Pig's boat. Grandpa Pig is taking Peppa and George out for a day on the river. I'm the captain of this boat, says Grandpa Pig. Granny Pig, Peppa and George all salute Grandpa Pig. Aye, aye, Captain, they cry. When I tell you to do something, you must do it, says Grandpa Pig. Unless it's something silly, Granny Pig tells Peppa and George. Grandpa Pig frowns. The captain never says anything silly. Of course not, Captain, says Granny Pig, saluting. Everyone does what Grandpa Pig says. Wow. He asks George to raise the flag and Granny Pig to take the wheel. Then Grandpa Pig tells Peppa to ring the bell. Off they go. The boat speeds through the water. Granny Pig thinks they should go a bit slower. Good idea, Granny Pig, says Grandpa Pig. I don't want to use up all my petrol. Peppa spots another boat. It's Grandad Dog. He's taking Danny Dog out for a day on the river. Grandad Dog is Grandpa Pig's very best friend. Oh, I'm surprised your boat is still afloat, Grandad Dog. It must be almost as old as you are, says Grandpa Pig. Oh, this old boat can go faster than your rusty bucket any day, replies Grandad Dog. Grandpa Pig is not happy. He calls Grandad Dog a sea dog. Grandad Dog calls Grandpa Pig a water hog. You are both acting like little children, cries Granny Pig. Peppa and George think this is funny. Grandpa Pig won't say sorry. Grandad Dog won't say sorry. They decide to race instead. Grandad Dog zooms off. Catch me if you can, water hog, says Grandad Dog. Grandpa Pig is not happy. Sea dog, shouts Grandpa Pig. Grandpa Pig overtakes Grandad Dog and leaves him far behind. Can't catch me, ha 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 ha, says Grandpa Pig. I win. Oh no, my boat has run out of petrol, cries Grandpa Pig. Maybe I did go a bit too fast. Maybe Grandad Dog can tow us home, suggests Granny Pig. I don't want him to, says Grandpa Pig. Will you two ever grow up? Says Granny Pig. Grandpa, say sorry to Grandad Dog, says Peppa. Grandad, say sorry to Grandpa Pig, says Danny. Finally, they both say sorry. Grandad Dog is Grandpa Pig's very best friend. Grandad Dog tows Grandpa Pig's boat home. The main thing is I won the race, Grandpa Pig says to Peppa. Grandpa Pig, cries Granny Pig. Silly Grandpa Pig.
Peppa Pig stamps. Grandpa Pig is showing Peppa and George his stamp collection.
Wow.
I think you must have every stamp ever, says Peppa. So there's no more need to buy any more, is there, Grandpa Pig? Says Granny Pig, chuckling. Grandpa Pig doesn't answer. Mr. Zebra the postman arrives at Granny and Grandpa Pig's door. He is delivering the post to their house. It's the post, cries Peppa. It's a postcard from my friend, says Granny Pig. I've never had a postcard, says Peppa sadly. That's easy to fix, says Granny Pig. Come with me. There's something missing, says Granny Pig. It needs a stamp too. Grandpa has stamps, cries Peppa. My stamps are not for licking and sticking on postcards, says Grandpa Pig. I think we'll find some normal stamps upstairs, says Granny Pig. Granny Pig and Peppa and George go upstairs. Granny Pig opens up the desk drawers to look for the stamps. Peppa checks inside. No stamps here, Granny, says Peppa. Oh dear, we'll have to have another look downstairs, says Granny Pig. Look, Granny, a stamp for our postcard, says Peppa, finding a stamp on the table.
Wow.
I knew we would find a stamp somewhere, says Granny Pig. George, would you like to lick it? George licks the stamp and sticks it on the postcard. Now it's time to post your postcard, says Granny Pig. Granny Pig, Peppa and George walk to the red postbox. Send it off, George, says Granny Pig. Peppa helps George post the postcard. Says George. Did anyone see a stamp on the kitchen table? Asked Grandpa Pig, arriving at the postbox. Yes, Grandpa, we stuck it on our postcard, says Peppa. Mr. Zebra has already collected the post. Grandpa Pig chases after him. Come back, my stamp, shouts Grandpa Pig. The stamp isn't lost. The postcard is going to Peppa and George's house, says Granny Pig. Grandpa Pig races there just in time to meet Mr. Zebra. Mr. Zebra jumps out of his van to deliver Peppa and George's post. Our postcard! Yippee! Cheers Peppa. The postcard has Grandpa Pig's collectible stamp on it.
Wow.
Would you like to keep it, Grandpa? Asked Peppa. Thank you, Peppa, says Grandpa Pig.
This stamp was important before, but it's even more precious now that it has been posted to you. Ha 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 ha. The end.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.